Welcome to the Blackout Show, presented by the Gellinger, a show about the Chicago White Sox baseball, the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll debate what's working and what's not on the south side of Chicago. It's old school versus new school baseball. And most importantly, we're keeping all the receipts.
Welcome to the Blackout Show, where the good news is Pedro Grifol is out. The bad news is the White Sox still really suck. 190 losses over 1 3/4 seasons on the south side for Pedro Grifol as the manager. And yesterday, Chris Getz shit-canned him. So here we are on the Blackout Show talking about the breaking news from yesterday on the south side. I'm Slavko Bekovic, joined by Gonzo and Jay. Ozzie Jr. is in a suite somewhere for the Crosstown game tonight on the south side with our boy Freddy Garcia. So we'll see if Ozzie Jr. jumps on Friday night. So Ozzie Sr. is doing the show from the ballpark for a home game. Chris Getz was on the broadcast today with Steve Stone and sunglasses, wearing John Schriffen, even in the dark for some reason. Basically said that after a lot of conversations, the White Sox for some reason decided that now was the time. I'm assuming that just means it's because they can get a head start on a managerial search. We can get into that more in a little bit, but just give me your guys' first initial reactions on, were you surprised that the White Sox actually pulled the trigger on Grifol? And were you surprised at all with what Chris Getz had to say? Gonzo, let's go ahead and start with you.
So for one, I don't know if I was laughed at when I said that I see Grifol getting fired in August, right after the All-Star break around there. And I know everyone else is telling me that we're going to keep him for the remaining of the season. And I was hoping that wasn't the case. But the fact that it happened, and honestly, it shouldn't have gotten to this point. It should have been way before this. I know originally we were kind of hoping that when Getz was hired, that he would have moved on with his own selection. We can get into that as well, but at least start fresh for himself with a manager back before the season started. So for me, even though I was right on where my thoughts were, it should have been done way before then. And then when I see his criteria and his press conference, I don't know what to expect, because he says he wants to go outside the organization, but like Junior said previously, we all have connections, so that's not going to be the case. And I don't know, and especially when I see Nightingale saying the leading candidate is Skip Schumacher, I'm like, why are we gonna go select out of Miami's organization with all the chaos that happened there and how that affected their whole organization with him involved? And I'm like, well, why are we going to Miami, who is just as bad a situation as we are right now? We went from the Royals picking out of them to now Miami. Like, we just shipped off every one of our ex-players over there, and now we're going to go grab their manager and bring him back here. This makes absolutely no sense, and I feel like nothing is changing. And I'm going to wrap myself right there because I'm going to save my rant for a little bit later.
Here we go.
It's a rant. All right, Jay, what you got? Were you surprised?
Yeah, actually, because I was one of the people that didn't believe that Grifol, even though deservedly he should have got fired during the season. I thought the White Sox were just going to ride it out and do what they do going into 2020.
Wait, you said you don't think he deserved to be fired, or you were
No. I'm saying
you didn't expect
even though
it.
he deserved to be fired, I don't think the White Sox were going to do it.
Gotcha.
Now, on the other token, I love Grady Sizemore. That's part of my baseball nostalgia. Never in a million fucking years would I ever thought that Grady Sizemore would be the interim manager for the Chicago White Sox. Right after firing Pedro on his day off like he was Craig from Friday. Like, that was just an event all within itself for me. So I was surprised, actually. I didn't think they were going to do it. And then they pivoted to somebody that I couldn't even imagine. They need to put Grady in the lineup instead of the dugout.
He's probably the second best outfielder in the organization right now. And the best one is kind of playing like shit lately too. So maybe he is the best. Sizemore still looks like he can hack it a little bit though, doesn't he? He's still
he give me a 740 OPS, 120 games.
That'd be what, third best on the team?
Don't do that. Come on, man.
I was surprised. I wasn't surprised that Grifol was let go. I guess in defense of what Chris Getz had to say, it does make sense to do it now. Give yourself, 2 months of a head start, theoretically, kind of feel things out. Get yourself a list of candidates. I know we've heard Skip Schumacher's name thrown around for, it seems like this whole summer now because of Bob Nightingale. And Nightingale's usually pretty locked in because him and Jerry Reinsdorf are tight, and he's been pretty spot on just about anything White Sox reporting over the last, I don't know how many years. Grifol had to go. We all know that. We got a couple tweets that I'm going to pull up here, and these are, I'll be honest. I know Gonzo and Jay, you guys were discussing, you wanted to pull a bunch of receipts and throw a bunch of people under the bus from day one. I'm with you. However, I don't know that that's entirely fair for two reasons. Number one, nobody knew at the time what the White Sox were getting when they hired Pedro Grifol. This was obviously Rick Hahn's hire. Jerry gave him the keys. He let him pick his guy. Everything that Pedro Grifol said in that winter of, 22 leading into 23 when he got the job, and everything he said in that introductory press conference, everything he said in spring training that year, everyone was maybe not on board with the hire, especially when there were some other guys with more experience that ultimately went on to win a World Series 11 months ago or whatever, 10 months ago. But again, were those realistic options? Were those guys that actually were willing to take this job? And was Jerry willing to pay any of those guys? Those are all questions that we will never really know the answer to. What I'm saying is Grifol said all the right things. When you look back on the history of Chicago sports, and I feel like this is pretty much across the board, you kind of go extreme to extreme when it comes to Ozzie Guillen being a temperamental, energetic guy, to Robin Ventura, who you might look at his pulse and I don't even know sometimes if he had a heartbeat. That's just the way it works in sports. You go from one style of coach to the next, and it just kind of ping pongs back and forth. I don't know what Pedro Grifol's style was, because he talked a big game, but he didn't do jack shit to actually help this team. Let me just go ahead and pull up these graphics, because stuff that he said made it seem like, okay, like this is the guy that we're looking for. We're going to earn your trust with our play on the field, with our work ethic and our preparation. That was from his introductory press conference. We're going to play winning baseball. We're going to play fundamental defense. We're going to restore trust from our fans. Sorry, buddy. You did the exact opposite. You talked a big game, and absolutely nothing turned out any better than when he took it. Can you tell me one thing that is better about the team, the organization, the player, anything that has gotten better while Pedro Grifol was manning this dugout and was the guy in charge in the clubhouse? They were not prepared. They did not play good defense. They didn't hustle. They didn't play hard. They didn't do jack shit. They didn't do anything to ingratiate themselves to the fan base. And certainly Grifol never did anything but talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and there was just no action. And that ultimately led to his downfall. 89 wins and 190 losses in a season and a half plus with the White Sox. I mean, he is unquestionably the worst manager in the history of this franchise that has been around for 130 years or whatever the hell it's been. It's embarrassing that he was even chosen. And now, in retrospect, I question Rick Hahn even more what the hell did you think you were getting with Pedro Grifol? I just don't understand it. I'm not trying to celebrate the fact that he's gone. I'm never the type to, piss on somebody's grave, no matter what. It's just a shame that it's kind of devolved into what it has with this organization and the fans, and everyone's just pissed about everything right now. And I think it was probably really good to hear from Chris Getz that they want to go outside the organization. They want to go with someone who is currently in a different uniform, I think is the exact quote that Getz had yesterday. I don't know. Skip Schumacher to me is not it. I don't know what it is, and I also don't know who the hell is going to want this job. This is not a team that's going to be very close to competing anytime soon. I think 26 maybe is when they start to become at least somewhat competitive. I think 25 is going to be another very bad season where we'll have some young guys to at least watch and pray for their development.
I don't like this.
You don't like it, or you don't think so?
I mean, I agree with you 100%, but I don't like where we're headed right now. Because
why not?
Because at the end of TLR, we were in purgatory still. We were a good team with right in the middle. It could go down, or we can just up our level of play and get to the next level. Right now, at the end of Pedro Grifol, we don't have 30 wins, and we're a team that's still stuck in purgatory. So it's damn near hell right now. Literal hell. What can we hang our hat on with the Chicago White Sox future? Noah Schultz?
The farm system, and Gonzo, we can give you the floor. Like, the farm system is on paper and by all accounts, as healthy as it's been in a long time. And after the trade deadline, Getz has acquired a few other pieces. I know that everyone was very underwhelmed with a lot of the returns, and so some of the trades were puzzling. And I mean, shoot, even getting a living, breathing person for Eloy Jimenez to me is a win. So I just, Noah Schultz and Hagen Smith, like, there's a lot to write home about when it comes to the pitching prospects. We'll see what happens with Colson Montgomery and Edgar Caro and the hitting prospects, but there's reason for hope. I don't know that any of these guys outside of Schultz, I don't know that any of them are like blue chip type players. There's nobody that, in my opinion, at least right now, that's going to be the guy that you build around from an offensive standpoint.
Franchise-altering player, right?
Right. From an offensive standpoint, I think Schultz can be that guy potentially as an arm. Smith, Taylor. I mean, there's a lot to like about what they have in the minors from the pitching perspective. But are they going to be able to score any runs at all in the next few years? What free agent is going to want to sign here? What's Jerry Reinsdorf going to be willing to pony up at all in regards to improving this roster over the next few years? Number one, pending his age and his health. Number two, pending his status of, is he going to want to spend it all until there's a stadium resolution? And then once that's done, is he just going to be looking towards selling? Like, there's a lot of question marks, including with Chris Getz and this whole staff right now. What type of manager are they going to go for? Are they going to get a first-time guy? Are they going to try to find a veteran who's done it before? Are they going to try to find some diamond in the rough like they did with Grifol that obviously didn't work out? I have more questions than I have answers. I'm glad that they moved on from Grifol. I think there was nothing redeeming at all about that. I just hope that they get this right. And even still, if they do get it right, there's so much other shit to fix that just getting even an average manager will help. But an average manager is still probably at best 40 and 75 right now with this team. And that's on Chris Getz too. So I don't know. What are you looking for? What do you want to see out of the next skipper on the south side?
Experience for one, because going back to what you were saying, Slav, Pedro had all the experience in the league to sound right, but no experience to actually go by it and follow through on the action side of it. And that showed right from the beginning. And at this point, I'm really done with the whole Pedro talk on my side of it. I want to focus on Chris Getz because you go back to before when he was head of player development, right? There's no one that came up as a position player that you can really give him credit for. And that's staggering that now he gets that position, and then you go right from the get-go to going with Pedro as your first manager who just came off of a 100-loss season, and your first task is trading Dylan Cease. And for me, like I gave my opinion on it, I just felt like he came to, at the end of the day, he came to a situation where I felt like he pressured himself to make that deal with the value that he got back from it. And now we go through this first half of the season, we get to the deadline, and there's supposed to be 2 value players that you should have dealt, because I don't believe they're going to get extensions, and their highest value was there at the deadline with 2.5. Well, with Crochet, 2.5 years, and then Robert was 3 years of control left, I think it is. But I felt like both of them, you should have traded them at that deadline. And
I thought you wanted to keep Crochet.
Personally, yes. If I was in front office, but I would have extended Cease. So besides me, I'm not in that situation where I was the GM before this all happened. I'm saying at that moment, at the trade deadline, I was saying trade Crochet. 100%. Maybe, again, a year and a half ago, I was extending Cease and extending Crochet probably next year. But I would have been talks already with him.
No fucking way. Stop. You're telling me a year and a half ago at the start of 23, you were saying we should extend Garrett Crochet.
No, I'm saying with going from there until now and seeing his progression.
Okay.
I'm definitely on the, starting those conversations of let's get you extended. Let's hear your price. And I would try to get that extension done now than later, especially at today's price. I want that done now on today's terms than tomorrow's for sure.
So, but would you have been more pissed if they traded Crochet for an underwhelming return? Which I know you would have, no matter what trade they got, because everyone on earth, when it comes to trade deadline rumors and, like, hey, I'm going to put together this random package, it's always incredibly more than anything that ever happened. So we're always underwhelmed with the return because you didn't get prospect X or prospect Z or prospect Y. That's
I can't say for sure because we haven't even heard the rumors of what was offered. We heard what it was for Feddy's package. We heard the Twins rumor come out, but I haven't heard any specific prospect names with any particular team for the Crochet.
But don't you think that that's probably a reason to say, oh, okay, we're not going to trade him just because and get a less than desired return? I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not trying to defend Chris Getz. I'm just saying, like, if they didn't trade him, it's because they didn't get a package that was worthwhile. And you'll get more bidders in November, December than you will right now, when only teams that are in the hunt are trying to trade and acquire an arm like that. You'll get more available pieces, more teams willing to acquire a pitcher at Crochet's age in the offseason with the control that he has. This is what we were talking about in the group chat. And you got all butthurt that they didn't trade him, but it's not like it's over. Even after tonight, giving up 4 home runs and 3 1/3, like, his trade value is not gone just because you haven't traded him.
The market.
So hold on before you say something. I've seen what their value has been, and I can't stand it for what they dealt. Even in that 3-player deal with Feddy, we ain't got nothing back from St. Louis in that deal, and that's staggering. The fact that we didn't get anything from them in that deal.
The market.
Hold on. I've seen what the market on less years of control, and there was still value there. You just weren't seeing the top prospects but there were a whole lot of valued prospects in those deals with less years of control that you can definitely believe that, hey, we can pull a package together here where I don't think I would have been
But what makes you
like
say that other than
pissed.
just speculation? Because the
It's not
deals didn't happen.
So some of the deals that I saw that like, and I talked with Elijah about it, like some of those Philly deals, that the first one with Clayson, I forgot who was the main player in that deal for that trade, but Clayson was a very promising prospect and one that right away I was like, wow, like if he was like one of the first two deals to go, and I'm like, this could be a very interesting deadline. And then it just completely fell apart with all the rumors with the agent with Crochet that, you know, things started to fall apart per se, even though that there were still 3 teams still involved. Promising teams too. I think Baltimore, Dodgers. I forgot the other team if it was the Phillies,
The Yankees.
and the Red Sox too. The Red Sox. I don't know what that package was, but I know Gordon talked about it on Chuck's podcast. For the fact that the Red Sox were even involved, and from what the hearing was that they were going to take on Benintendi's deal in that package, I would love to hear what, you know, the names were of those prospects that were involved. But again,
the prospects wouldn't have been as good though if you're trying to offload that contract. That's a negative
Right.
value.
And that's probably why they didn't accept that deal. But that was a dark horse team that we had no clue was even involved. So I wanted to see what the other teams were offering.
What starters were moved this deadline? Jack Flaherty, Eric Fetty, Zach Eflin,
Rogers.
This is a renter's market. You're not paying an iron price for Garrett Crochet.
Hold up. No, Flaherty, that deal, Tigers got for one half left of control. They got their what's his name, the catcher. He was just bumped up to 60 in the rankings, but at the time, like he was, I think 7th in the Dodgers system. But still,
was Cartaya part of that trade?
He's in a different period of his career than Jack Flaherty.
And he's not on an innings limit. Flaherty was.
Yeah.
There's a lot less question marks with Jack Flaherty, Eric Fetty, and Zach Eflin than you do with Garrett Crochet, on top of the price tag being a little bit higher.
I wouldn't agree, because you got the years of control less with Flaherty, and just like Flaherty's having a bounce back season for the first time after
they're
2-3 years.
To buy the years of control. They're trying to get a guy that they could just They're
and
done
same
with
with
them in
Crochet.
December. Yeah, but whoever.
But you get the control.
But whoever trades for Crochet, they're not done with him in December.
Right. You got the control for another 2 years.
Yes,
but for certain teams, like a team like the Dodgers, the control is less important. They're trying to win a World Series today. If you can't throw 60 pitches, you're not helping me. You're not going to pay a premium for a guy who's going to be a reliever.
I can't say that whatever organization gets them, they have their own resources on their handling of a workload. And that was proven the fall territory they had on. I forgot what doctor, but they said that every organization right now is completely different on workload and the resources that they have in those situations, that it's not per se that, you know, it's going to be favorable or less favorable for that team in that situation.
But you're not gonna trade a premium for Crochet and then trot him out there to throw 100 pitches every 5 days and then potentially blow out his arm, because now he's not helping me this year or next year. And you have 1 year of control and you've given up essentially a package for 2.5 years where you're not even getting close to that. That's the risk that these GMs have to kind of weigh before the deadline. Nobody's arguing that Garrett Crochet is not a really good pitcher, but you have no idea. And right now, if he can't go 4 innings, he's useless to the White Sox. He'd be even more useless to a team that's in the hunt.
Again, I can't predict what organization is going to get out of him with the resources that they have.
The resources is just research. It's just prognostication. Yeah. They're not telling you exactly what's going to happen in the future. If they are, I'd like to hire them myself.
but some teams are better than others with that.
That's 100%
So-
true, but it's also the luck of the draw. One pitch can end a guy's career.
But again,
one
that
pitch-
says for any pitcher, there's risk involved no matter what.
Of
So,
course.
but the fact that at the time of the deadline, he was going strong. Like after the deadline,
Ooh.
yeah, we were starting Crochet. Before the deadline,
they put him on a limit immediately after the trade deadline or
Four
the All-Star
innings,
game.
the Sox did, but he was still going strong. So like, I don't know like why we have that fear. I mean, in hindsight, yeah, because we're seeing a little bit of him getting hit up a little bit, but at that time, I wasn't saying, "Hey, like I can see the precautions
if you were the GM and the manager of the White Sox, how would you? Okay, let's say you do not find a trade for Garrett Crochet. You're telling me you would just let him go out there and throw every 5 days and throw 100 pitches for the whole season?
Yeah,
you would.
Because it
that's
was
why
working.
You do the Blackout show
it was
you're
working.
Not a manager.
We can't say that because all right, you were saying before the season start how many innings he was going to get? What, like 60? You and Junior were saying about 60, and he's already at 130, and he was going strong. He was at what, 110ish at the break.
No,
he was going strong at 110.
No
one saw this.
Be this good, right?
Exactly, but we didn't predict it, and we didn't even know he was going to be this good on this schedule of every 5 days just going.
Sure.
So like we can't predict for the good or the worse of this. What I'm saying is, if it benefits him to be on that cycle, then why stop that cycle? Because you're just going to put more stress on the body, introducing a different habit to that that routine.
No, I agree with you there. I think
so
skipping.
And I think you're harming him by changing it up. Like I understand trying to have a game plan for when you start to see the eye test of him and his workload. When you start to see him slow down a little bit, yes, then I would change my mind and be completely in agreement with you, Slav. But when I'm looking at the eye test of Crochet and he's going strong and he's finishing these games stronger than when he started with velocity, especially velocity, I'm going,
that
okay.
That was all 6 weeks ago. He's not doing that now. And obviously tonight he got lit up.
He was doing that up until I want to say up till the last start before the deadline is when like you were thinking like, okay. But the team at that point was starting to change the workload. So I wasn't happy with how the team was going about it at that time, approaching the deadline, if that makes sense.
His last start where he threw over 75 pitches was July 6th, a full month ago. Mm-hmm. Obviously before the All-Star game. 4 innings that day already. It was that outing in Miami where they I don't know, he gave up 5 hits like really early in the game, similar to what happened tonight. Although tonight the issue was the home run. Like you cannot say for certain what has happened over the last 4 starts now, including tonight. Well, last start he was okay, but 4 walks is unusual. His velocity down. Today I saw him hit 97 at the most. A lot of pitches right over the heart of the plate. There's a lot that's involved. Number 1, the innings. Number 2, the routine and changing things up and skipping starts and this and that. Number 3, the longer that the season wears on, the more teams have on him. And when you're a 2-pitch pitcher, and if both pitches aren't working, it's very, very hard to have success.
I just want to talk about the season wearing down on Garrett Crochet. Tonight, the velocity has been down for the most part. Cutters have been sitting 88 to 91 miles per hour. That's not good, considering the fact that if your cutter's velocity down, your 4-seamer is going to be down too. So he's living about 95 to 97, ramping it up like Slavko said. At this point right now, we're looking at a guy who you're going to have to start skipping his starts, Gonzo, because you're seeing the arm fatigue show up. The Red Sox are doing the same thing with Nick Pivetta. They skipped his Saturday start this week because he's been showing fatigue. Garrett Crochet Gonzo said it perfectly. We couldn't predicted this. We don't know what's coming, but he is in fact in uncharted waters. The only sample size we have is the injury history and the species of pitcher that he is, right? Chris Getz and Pedro Grifol made the comments talking about they're gonna put him on a leash already, and that was before the trade deadline, Slav. So now we're sitting here, August 9th, and we're watching a guy who's essentially he was out of gas from the first pitch.
I mean, he still got it up to 97, which for him,
but it didn't have no hair. It had no hair.
Right. And a lot of them were right over the plate. I mean, he got hit hard tonight against the Cubs. 4 homers and whatever it was.
The home run Cody Bellinger hit, he aced him on a cutter the pitch before. The second cutter was a little bit towards the middle of the plate, and Cody didn't miss it. That's the stuff you got to look at.
Gonzo has something to say.
Oh, rehydrated.
I did feel like I got cut off originally because I was going.
You're in control.
I was starting to cut into Chris Getz, and I think I'm trying to remember where I left off.
Yeah, because you said some outlandish shit, probably.
No, where was I at? Oh, I was talking about his handling of the deadline, but then I was going to transition to, he's in charge of everything at this point, and the only thing with the farm system, because we all love the pitching prospect side of it, but when we go to position players, who has really progressed in that farm system to the point where you're like, wow, there's some change here in this farm system with everything that has transferred over. The only person I see is Edgar Cuero, who looks about ready. I forgot who just said
he's played 20 games in AAA, and now you're that's all you need to see.
1,000 OPS.
Well, that was said. Who was the frickin'? I forgot his name, but he just put it. I just saw the Twitter post
Must
of
have
it.
Been very important.
I didn't look at the name, but I'm happy to see that at least someone looks. If someone out there on the national side of it is saying this kid looks ready, that makes me happy that at least someone in our system actually looks ready, because our top hitter prospect in Colson Montgomery hasn't looked that way at all. And I think it was that same person said that just yesterday, offensively, we finally see what we've been hoping that this player would become, but we just haven't seen the consistency of that. And that's very alarming considering of where, he was and out there this whole time. But for the fact that Cuero is the only one is pretty alarming at this point. And where we want things to go and need to be, we can't just have one guy be that, out of all the, the value that has been there at the time, which we've already questioned on the position player side of it. It's pretty slim. We've been saying that, and that's why we were saying we need more value deals to bring more position player value back, because with all the holes that we have at the major league level, we need those to be filled before we can even start thinking about filling those with premium talent, because we have to see what we can fill ourselves first before we can even think about free agency, before we start overpaying for positions of need.
We need 19 free agents, Gonzo.
You're just going to bring up White Sox Nick saying we need to overpay for everybody.
Well, overpaying gets you nowhere.
Exactly.
Jay, I asked Gonzo earlier, and I'll ask you, what do you want to see in the next manager of the White Sox?
Discipline. I want to, if there's bad baseball being played, somebody has to pay the price. I'll go back to this until the day I die. In Minnesota, TLR featuring Adam Eaton ripped Yermin Mercedes a new one, first swinging on the 3-0 green light where he had the take sign. We seen none of that from Grifol. And there's been a lot of bad baseball being played without nobody being reprimanded for it. That's what I want to see out of a manager. I want you to go back to the 1987 ways of managing, where if a guy misses a cutoff, man, it's either you chew him out or you sit him down the next Wednesday day game. There should be we're not even winning 30 games through August.
Do you think it's ironic that a majority, I feel like, of White Sox Twitter actually hated Tony for doing that and threw Yermin under the bus, or they thought he threw Yermin under the bus and essentially ended his career and killed his confidence and blah, blah, blah?
Yeah. Absolutely, 100%. Like, these people chase Tony out of town for doing the stuff that managers are responsible for doing every day. And we could see him on TV falling asleep right after he gave somebody the lineup card. And that's okay, because I know for a fact if somebody misses a sign, he'll wake up out of his coffin for
I
something
mean,
like that.
he did get softer with the White Sox the second time around than he was
He's
in St. Louis.
150.
Well, yes, he was old as shit, and he's now older. But I mean, he wasn't the same hard ass that he had the reputation of being, and he never. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if hard ass was even like the right. He was just a, I don't know. He's just a fucking manager. He's just a baseball guy. He's
Yes.
a Hall of Fame baseball guy, according to him. I don't know. Like, I don't know. The problem that I keep going back to is that no matter who you hire, there are so many other problems that need to be fixed on top of just the manager. You can bring in fucking whoever you think is God's gift to managing baseball right now, and this team is still awful. This roster is still awful. The owner still sucks. From the top down, there's like 5 things to be proud about in this entire organization, and that's just not going to get you anywhere. To Gonzo's point, like, Chris Getz lives and dies more than likely with this manager, whoever it is he chooses, assuming Jerry gives him the chance to make the decision on his own, which is yet to be seen. We could all throw out all the names that we want and hear about potential candidates, but if Jerry just comes in one day and says, you know what, I'm going to go bring in my buddy, my pal, so-and-so, and he's going to be the guy, it doesn't matter. The White Sox chose Grady Sizemore as the interim manager for the rest of this season. I think Nightingale reported he's actually under contract with the team through 25. So that doesn't mean anything one way or the other. If they choose a new manager, he's going to pick his own staff. Grady might stay. He might not. I thought it was somewhat surprising that Charlie Montoyo, the bench coach, was let go. Eddie Rodriguez, who was just really bad at third base, he was let go. Mike Tosar, the assistant hitting coach, let go. Ethan Katz survives for now. Justin Jirschele got promoted. The AAA manager that the White Sox have loved and touted for so long gets promoted to be third base coach. Doug Sisson is the new bench
Good
coach.
windmill. Very
And
good windmill.
Mike Gellinger,
Hey,
Gelly, awesome dude. Gelly gets promoted as the assistant hitting coach. Those moves are somewhat puzzling to me too, because I think a lot of people might have said Jirschele might have been I guess, potential candidate to be the next manager. But as soon as Getz said it's not an internal candidate, like, is he just shit out of luck right now?
first you gotta look good at third base before we can decide your fate.
Well,
Because
his fate,
Ewing and
his
Rodriguez
fate's already
look good.
decided. He ain't going anywhere. I mean, or he's not managing. So what happens? Does he live out the rest of this season as a third base coach, then go back to AAA next year as the manager? Does he find a position on the staff of the new coach? That would feel like something Chris Getz would probably have to kind of coax that new guy in or talk him into it as part of his contract. There's just so many questions that I have. And who wants this job? Yes, I understand there's only 30 some jobs in Major League Baseball to be a manager. So someone's going to want to jump at the opportunity, but I'm sure Pedro Grifol right now is saying, God damn, I could have just been better off being some Joe Schmo in the Royals organization or someplace else than having to deal with the shit that I dealt with for the last 20 months.
And that I know I feel like I was optimistic for the situation that I saw how this transpired. Was you waited so long to get to this point to finally let him go now, that I would have had hoped that you would have had a better planned outcome for this situation of who was going to be replacing the holes in the situation. That with Grady taking the helm, I'm like, yay, but like, it's just so, at the end of the day, just Like, this is so White Sox at the end of the day.
You know what would be so White Sox is if they play like just under 500 the rest of the season, and then they like just give Grady the keys and sign him to be the manager for like 2 or 3 years. And then, of course, they would be still suck and be awful next year. And then they put Grady in a bad spot. And then all of a sudden he'd start to feel the heat. And it's just this never ending cycle of crap.
You know what? Let me just say this right now before we go any further. Grady Sizemore, I will always remember you as a Cleveland Guardian / Indian. I will not let the
He was
White
never
Sox.
a Guardian.
I would never. I got to say that for other purposes, but I would never look at you differently because of your White Sox tenure. All right? You're still a legend in my eyes, Grady. You want to know something sick? The only major league player that was traded for this year was Miguel Vargas, who has a great approach at the plate, good eye, but you're putting him in a position to get pitched to every day. We couldn't
He's
even
in
get
192 right now.
Man, I watched him in spring training with a broken hand get on base at almost a 400 clip without swinging the bat. I know he has a good eye. He knows the strike zone. But with him playing in this White Sox lineup, he's going to see somebody B+, A- pitches all game. All game. It sucks.
I don't even know. Like, there's no protection, obviously, for a guy like him. Andrew Benintendi's on a heater right now. He's got 2 bombs today. Threw out a guy at home plate.
I can't wait till Gonzo get to the segment. I can't fucking wait.
Maybe, I don't know. I wish this would have happened a month ago so they could have traded him, or at least he had some value. But now he's just out there playing well for no reason. There's absolutely no reason.
A 20 home run season from Benintendi.
Could you imagine? Like, and if on the day the White Sox signed him, everyone was like, "Oh, okay, like it's Andrew Benintendi. They got someone." And if you told him he'd have, a double-digit home run season, you'd be like, "Oh shit! Like, oh yeah, that might be a good sign."
What if he leads the team in home runs this year?
Where does he rank right now? I think
Vaughn got 14.
That is embarrassing.
15. So Gonzo's muted. Somebody in the chat tell him he's muted, man.
Paul, okay, DeJong had 18, Vaughn at 13. Benintendi's now tied him. Oh, no, Vaughn has 14 now. Oh, my God. Benintendi has more fucking home runs than Luis Robert.
More power.
Obviously. Much more power. I mean, the slugging percentage, it's only a 40-some point difference right now.
That's sick.
Luis Robert's OPS is 687.
I told you he
This
was in a
sucks.
slump. I told you he was in a bad slump.
All right, Gonzo, since we have the time, and I know this is something that you wanted to do on tonight's episode of the Blackout Show. Do you want to do it one time for Pedro? Give it to us one time for Pedro. Let's see it.
I don't have a problem making decisions. I don't have a problem making a call on a pitcher. I don't have a problem making a call on whatever our team needs at this particular moment.
He didn't have a problem making a call. He had a problem making every call.
Petty as hell, bro.
Or making decisions.
That quote was that was just perfection right there. I feel bad, but I don't.
I'm going to keep it.
That should just be our new sarcasm animation. Anytime someone is just straight up bullshitting, you just play that. We'll cut it down to just the Grifol quote. We'll use it like a radio station, just like a soundboard. Let me hear it one more time. I got to hear it one more time.
I don't have a problem making decisions. I don't have a problem making a call on a pitcher. I don't have a problem making a call on whatever our team needs at this particular moment.
That's just too good. Oh, man. That's actually hilarious. Watching your guys' reactions when we heard the Grifol audio.
It's sick, bro, because we've been
Chef's kiss
trolling.
right there.
We've been trolling Gonzo for a minute, saying we need another intro for the show.
Everything's dead. Everything's gone.
When Grifol got Craiged, it was like, yeah, you know what? We got to keep that. We got to keep it.
Joe says
It's
Getz
gonna-
had a track record of being bad at his job. I don't see it getting better. For now, yes, that's fair. Any chance that Jerry fires him before Sox Fest? Is there even plans for Sox Fest to come back anytime soon? So I'd say the chances are high because I don't see Sox Fest happening. And then shout out to KG, our guy, Little Joe's. The new cocktail at the bar called the Tears of Grifol. I can only imagine that it's got some horrible concoction of ingredients.
I'm going to need an Uber after that one.
Yeah,
Sounds
you
like
only
a
need one.
That
You
sounds
only
like
need
a
one.
Malort mule.
Okay, first of all, those are delicious. And second of all, they're still delicious.
Says Slavko.
Look, I dig it. I like it. I would love a Malort mule. See, KG says there is Malort in it. Can confirm. I will try one. KG, you got me next time we come to the bar. I'm getting one.
Hey, I might have to get one too. I like some Malort. Gonzo be running from the Malort. You ain't Chicago.
Nah, he's too Cali now.
Oh, one of them.
All right. Any final thoughts on Pedro, on Getz, on Jerry, on Malort?
I just want to say this. We're going to prepare every night to kick your ass.
It's all too good because those are the emptiest words in the history of White Sox managerial history. It's
He
embarrassing.
lied to us. Like, I was under the impression, right, going into this season, Rick Hahn is the only liar as a White Sox fan that I know. Pedro Grifol tripled that. Tripled.
And the irony is that Rick Hahn chose Pedro Grifol.
Yes, you chose a better liar, Rick. What if, okay, conspiracy
But then
time.
AJ said that.
What if Rick Hahn knew he was getting canned, so he fucking sent Grifol to poison us?
It's a sabotage.
It's a sabotage.
That is what we call an El Chivo.
Mm.
Gonzo, what were you about to
sick
say?
to my stomach.
I was saying that AJ was saying in foul territory that Getz was heavily involved with Grifol's hiring.
Well, I know they go back to the KC organization, and they were reportedly boys, which everyone I think in the offseason was throwing the stink about the KC White Sox.
The crazy part about what AJ said though was when Pedro gave his personal statement yesterday, he didn't even mention Grifol at all. He thanked Hahn.
Wait, when who gave his statement?
Pedro gave a statement.
And he didn't mention who?
On his behalf. And he thanked Jerry, Kenny, and Hahn, but he mentioned nothing of Chris Getz at all.
He probably feels like he's been backstabbed.
Even though Getz was heavily involved with the hiring.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's the assistant
and
GM.
Keeping him.
He was the assistant GM at the time.
And don't forget, he did keep him ultimately. You know, I'm sure Jerry had more say on that, but at the end of the day, he did keep him.
I don't know. I don't think that I don't think that that's actually a thing. Like, you cannot give him credit, or I don't know, whatever word you want to use, like, for keeping him. He's under contract. Like, just because you get promoted to GM doesn't mean that you have to shit can the manager. I think everyone probably saw after one season, Pedro was not that guy. But
my thing is after 100 loss season, why can't we scrap him with that $1 million or $1.5 million contract at the end of the day? We're getting that back in cash considerations with every trade we make.
It's not entirely how it works, but I get your point, and I'm not sure it was as cheap as $1 or $1.5 million. Either way,
because it was 3 years, $5 million, right?
So I think so. You watch Foul Territory a lot, and I know AJ had a lot of comments and discussed
I just see the reels.
Okay. So, I mean, what were your takes of what AJ had to say? I know the one clip that I saw was, him being asked if he does get the call, which he does not expect. I think he said ever since he's been out of the organization, like the White Sox haven't really gotten a hold of him for a lot of anything. And that's partly because of, I think, the reputation he has with fans and the reputation he has with former teammates and former White Sox or current White Sox employees are probably not the same, if that makes any sense. I think he's interested in opportunities. I don't know that he's entirely just happy to step away from what they've built with Foul Territory. I mean, that's turned into a really good thing for him, and he's obviously a huge part of it. He did say, like, if the White Sox called, he's willing to take the job.
It sounded sincere.
Like, I don't know if that's the way he specifically worded it, but it sounded like if they said, yes, you're going to be the manager, he would take it. It doesn't sound like that's going to be the case. I don't think that Jerry will be reaching out to him. I'm not sure that AJ has burned bridges per se, but I don't think he's horribly well liked by Jerry and White Sox brass. Maybe that's the type of guy that they need, though, because everyone that Jerry seems to love hasn't really worked out in quite some time. I don't see AJ as a possibility. I don't see Ozzie Guillen as a possibility. It sounds like anyone affiliated with this organization internally or previously probably will not be the choice. That remains to be seen, though. If they get into this managerial search and nobody outside the organization worth a shit wants to take the job or has any interest or wows them in their interviews, maybe that tune changes. But I can't see AJ as the next manager of the White Sox in 2025.
Me neither. I think at a certain point, I think the White Sox are going to go back to getting an older manager, somebody a little bit more seasoned. I believe Jerry Reinsdorf signed off on Grifol because it was the impression of a younger manager, somebody who probably more connected with today's game. And in fact, it was far from it because there was no discipline and foundation put in place. I feel like that's where we're going to go as far as a manager. I'm looking at Don Mattingly. I want somebody of that caliber because you got to think. Yeah.
Oh, look who's joining us live from the suites on the south side.
What's up, guys?
Just
jumped in to say hi.
Junior going to be the next manager of the Sox?
No, I can't be the next manager. I'm not in a uniform in a MLB coaching staff.
Come on, man.
By the way, I don't know why you guys don't understand the general manager was on a show today, actually 2 shows as of right now, and has explained to the fan base and to everybody what the job criteria for the next manager is going to be. I don't know why everybody just doesn't understand that. Like, he literally told everybody that he's the boss, which is right, that he's picking the next manager, and he gave everybody like what they're looking for to at least the credentials to get in to be considered as a manager. So I don't know why everybody's like still surprised and like still trying to throw names in there that are like myself or anybody that don't fit that criteria.
Why don't you fit the criteria?
Because I'm not in a uniform right now. They said that it's going to be somebody from who's in uniform today in a Major League Baseball organization.
Which throws out Senior and AJ.
It throws out Senior, AJ, it throws out Joe Madden, it throws out Mike Scioscia, Terry Francona, Ron Gardenhire.
So Ethan Katz is the manager.
No, he's not. There goes the other criteria. It's going to be somebody from outside of the White Sox organization.
So, Junior, we were just talking about this. The problem is you can say that all you want, but when you get into this manager search, is anyone that you want going to want the job themselves, knowing what they're getting into with a terrible roster, with a young GM who's inexperienced and an owner who's not going to spend, and the hot seat is immediately going to be on you. So will they have to change their tune after a while if the guys that they want don't want that job?
And I call bullshit because in the press conference originally they said we're not bringing anyone from outside the organization, and they brought Barfield, Bannister, and who's the
I'm talking about not the press conference. I'm talking about today. like
I know,
the
but
comments
this
that he
was,
made.
I'm saying, like, even back when Chris Getz was at his intro press conference, they came out saying these statements. So, I mean, they can say whatever they want right now. Like, I'm
Oh, they
not
can
going to
say,
believe it till I see it.
oh, they could say whatever they want, but I'm saying I'm
Yeah.
going off of what the general manager has said of what the criterias are. I think that if the criterias do change, is because they cannot find someone to take the job, which
Exactly.
I don't believe that is true. In my opinion, for example, like the first guy I would call for this position, just because of what they want to rebuild outside of Ozzie Guillen, would be Buck Showalter. Again, he's not on the list because he's not in uniform today. I would interview myself with George Girardi. I would interview me personally. I would interview pretty much. I would be interviewing someone every day at this point, or at least having unofficial ones to kind of going down that search. But I think that there's so many names out there for the style of what they're looking for that someone's going to take the job. I think that the number one candidate right now is Skip. I think that if he doesn't have any other offers, that he'll be with the Chicago White Sox. But I think that there's guys out there that we're not really thinking about because
Matheny's been mentioned too.
no, Matheny's not in
Oh,
uniform.
please God, no.
He's not in uniform. Matheny's not in uniform, and he had a health scare in January. I think Matheny's not the guy. Grusolanic was another name that was mentioned, but he's not in uniform. But I think that there's a lot of guys out there, like a lot of bench coaches, a lot of first base coaches, like the guy from the Dodgers that got mentioned. Like in today's game of baseball, you don't have to be a third base coach or a bench coach to be considered a manager. We've seen guys, Grady. We don't even know what Grady was doing with the White Sox when Grifol was there. He's the manager today. So if they find it's a good fit, and if it's somebody in another organization that they think that he's been doing a good job at any level, at any coaching position, I think that they will be considered. So I think that the manager is going to be young. I believe that he's going to be a guy it might be his first time maybe managing in the big leagues, but it's going to be someone that they think that they can build and grow. And I think that in the next 3 years, if they decide to spend money or not, they're going to be 3 years of developing into a team that should potentially win in 3 or 4 years. But whoever takes this job knows that they're going to at least have that window. There's no pressure, I think, whoever comes in, of anything's expected to them to be above 500, in my opinion.
I still want Willie Harris.
I think Willie Harris would be considered because he is in uniform and in a big league staff. And so I think Willie Harris would be somebody that would be considered, which he should, because he is in a big league staff and if he fits the criteria, he's outside
I think
the
he'll get
organization.
more of a sniff than he did previously.
I think that
sure.
the people that were making the decisions before might have not considered Willie as much as this group would consider Willie. But I definitely think that he's going to be a candidate because of the list that they have. But at the end of the day, I think that it's going to be Chris Getz' decision on who the manager is going to be. I think that there's going to be people advising him on who the manager should be. But I respect that he already came out and said, not knocking anybody, but this is what I think is going to be right for the team, what I'm looking for. And he has that right. It's hard for White Sox fans, I think, at this point, and a lot of people in the media to believe that Chris Getz is the person that's making the decisions at the end of the day. And at this point, you can't change somebody's mind of who you think the boss is. But I think he's made it very clear, and the team and the organization's made it very clear that it is Chris, that it is his team, that there's going to be no one coming in and being above Chris in decision making. That there's advisors like in every team, but at the end of the day, it's going to be his manager's decision. And like Ozzie said earlier today, Chris has a chance to be a hero or a zero. And this is his rebuild. And if he does it better than the previous one, it's not very hard to outcompete the previous one since they only had one playoff appearance from it. So it's his decision. I think that today the White Sox are in a better position than they were yesterday. I feel like this is like when a divorce is finally over and you know that your wife took half of your money but that you can go out and start dating and you're it's not good, but the future is brighter than what you were in. Difference from the Cubs. Today the Cubs, I look at their roster and I'm like, they have to either spend $200 million or be this team. And they're like in the middle of like just being in last place and going through it. So you kind of compare both sides. And I think the White Sox today there was a lot more smiles being here in the stadium, and the chairman was around and a lot of people in the organization, and a lot of people, like you could see that there's a future, like, okay, now we've made our first step towards where we want to go. And you can see the game today, your ace did not bring it and they're in the game. It feels like it's a different team playing, just with Grady, and he hasn't done a lot, and he's the manager. He hasn't gone out there and pitched for anybody or made it, but you could see that there's been a change, and you can feel the difference in energy from the people in the stadium today.
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Andrew Vaughn got the bases loaded with 2 outs, with the winning run on second base or first base.
It's bases loaded.
Yeah, it's bases loaded, and they had to claw back. I thought they were good.
It was a 7-0 ball. It was a 7-0 ball game. There was a play there where there was infield in and Grady. Yeah. So, but again, the fight.
I wonder what happened.
Yeah, it probably didn't go well. But from a sense of like, I think from a managerial standpoint, I think that the first move was made for the decision on what is to come in the future. I'm just very happy that the criteria Slacko eliminates Ozzy from the list, because there's nothing more annoying, I think, to get that question every single day.
Speculation.
I want it to be like, it's either going to be him, we're going to interview you, we want for you to help us, or it's not, and it's not going to be him. And if you haven't heard the 670 The Score interview from David, Howe is actually walking right now, which is very, very good. He's actually saying hi right now. The guy who had the great interview today with Chris Getz. He actually said hi, David Howe. Had a great interview where they explained everything very well. But I'm glad that that has just been made clear of what is expected and what's to come in the future. So we'll see. I think that Grady. The funny part is, I think that Grady Sizemore has a great opportunity to show everybody what he can do. And
I said that earlier.
And not even just for White Sox, I think just for him and coaching in general. I'm going to be honest. I'm sure you guys talked about the point. I was very happy. I was here in the stadium when he had his press conference on how honest he was. He was talking about how excited he was last night that he couldn't sleep. That's a real human answer. A guy that played in the big leagues and was very good in the big leagues, that has had experience, that has been at this stadium at his most packed, in his most pressure moment, was excited. And I like that, because he's not a robot, not a guy that thinks he knows it all. And I was very excited about that, because it felt like you had a human being that was addressing the media. So I'm better with that. I think that that's just more realistic. So I think that that's the most exciting part is, what can Grady do in the next 44 games? At least today's game was exciting. So we'll see where it comes from there. And I'm just excited in general, obviously, what's to come for the White Sox.
Where are you in relation to where they're at on the postgame show? What suite are you in?
I'm actually in the 4th floor. So I'm in suite 429. I'm actually right outside of it. They are in the 2nd floor. So I'm probably going to head down there right now. I got to go pick up Freddy Garcia.
Postgame show just started.
So we'll be
Sox,
right now.
Sox lose 7-6, and they're on the.
I'm just watching all the media people walk out, all the geniuses. They're all saying hi. They're all here because obviously.
So you're famous.
I'm not. They've all known me since I was a kid. I've seen a lot of them I'm sure they were excited today because they all can give their opinions of what they thought about the manager, which again we've been discussing a lot. But again, like I said, a lot of people are very excited of what's to come. Cubs Sox is always an exciting time. But I really believe that the Sox have made their first step towards the future of, if it's going to be good or bad, we don't know, but it's going to be the future. It's officially the Chris Getz era has started, since now he has picked his first interim manager and what's to come in the future. At this point, I don't think I'm going to win my pick to click. I don't even know who I picked.
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about your pick to click. It's done.
Oh, I know. I don't even remember who I picked. Whoever picked Benintendi should probably win.
We're skipping pick to click for tonight. But Junior, quick before you go down,
okay.
We celebrated a couple times already, but third time's a charm. For the last time on the Blackout show, Gonzo, give us the goods.
I don't have a problem making decisions. I don't have a problem making a call on a pitcher. I don't have a problem making a call on whatever our team needs at this particular moment.
It was fun.
It was fun. It was fun. You know what? There's part of me that's still sad that they didn't let him finish.
You people are sick.
Just how bad the record was, but it was consistently just crazy and wrong, and we're going to be talking about it for the next 7 years. when we go back and read the quotes on like how funny it was at this point, because somebody just walked literally from the media and was like, at least they made it interesting today. Again, everyone is just like, just very over all the BS that was there. And we will no longer have to talk about the nonsense that we were. And I hopefully we don't have to talk about anything about the manager other than what's happening on the field and decision-making. I think that's going to be the case. Like it was with Rick Renteria, with Robin Ventura, where you didn't really talk about their post-game shows because you didn't have to.
Yeah.
So we can retire that. Grifol's grounds, we might bring it back when something really funny happens. I think the funniest thing was, which I have to call out, nothing against him personally, but Yonder Alonso's worst tweet of the year saying, bring him to Miami. He needs to bring him home. There's a part of me that wants him to get hired just so the Marlins never win ever again. And then he said today. Oh, he tweeted it the day he got fired. I'll share the tweet. It's literally 5 people sent it to me, said it. The worst tweet anyone's ever tweeted out. Saying players want to play for him, bring him to Miami, bring him home.
That's embarrassing. It would actually be so White Sox if he went and just fucking turned that whole team around. Like just became the manager of the year. It's impossible. That would be very White Sox.
It wouldn't happen. It would be more Marlins for him to get hired, and then they would be the worst organization for the next 20 years, which would fit perfectly. There is nothing. Here's the sad part. There is nothing positive that he did other than the funny stuff that he said in his press conference and the one time that he pulled Pantera. There's nothing that you could say that I could say so many positive things about Robin Ventura and his era, about Rick Renteria and their era, about players that they developed. There is nothing positive that I could say that he brought from a managerial standpoint, from anything standpoint. Completely missed the bar, completely the wrong hire, made the Tony La Russa hire look like it was the greatest decision of all time, made every hire before that. It was the worst hire, and because of him getting hired, a lot of people lost their jobs and a lot of teams were lost. That's it. We can end on that note.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us from the South Side. Sox losing 7-6 against the Cubs, but they showed some fight coming back from 6 runs down. Junior's already on his way out. Gonzo J, last chance. Final thoughts before we get out of here.
They fired Pedro Grifol on his day off like he was Craig. That was the highlight of my week. I wish I could use this time to give Asia a shout out, but I won't. The White Sox lost, and the Red Sox tried to blow it, but they won. So there you have it. Grady Sizemore, go get him, kid.
Let the Chris Getz era begin.
I don't have a problem making decisions. I don't have a problem making a call on a pitcher. I don't have a problem making a call on whatever our team needs at this particular moment.